Hello, my name is Ben Bouchard, and I'm excited to share with you one main point from my biblical leadership essay and one thing that stood out to me about our course. So first, I'll start out with one thing that stood out to me about our course. The main thing that stood out to me about our course was Matt Perman's book, What's Best Next. The main theme of Perman's book was be productive to the glory of God. And there's three main points to his book. First, the gospel frees us to be productive. Second, the gospel defines what is productive. And then third, Perman gave some methods for being productive. So I'll go through each of those 3 points briefly. So first, the gospel frees us to be productive. Perman said that the Christian does not have to worry about his right standing with God because that was taken care of at the cross. He is thus truly free. Because God, the creator of the universe, came and freed us from our sin and put us in a right standing with him, we're able to be productive again. We're in a position where we can do what he wants us to do in his dominion. So the gospel frees us to be productive. And then second, the gospel defines what is productive. And Perman's main idea here was that good works for the good of others is what is productive. He cited Titus 3:8 as a reference for this point. It says, I want you to insist on these things so that those who have believed in God may be careful to devote themselves to good works. So Titus is saying, Paul is saying to Titus, I insist that you tell the people the gospel so that they remember to do good works. And that's the point with Perman's book here. The gospel frees us to be productive, and now we can go and serve others, and that's how you be productive. And then Perman gave some methods for being productive. A few of those methods were defining your mission, goal, and roles, planning by using a weekly schedule, and then making project plans. He presented these as tools we can use to be more productive in serving others and doing good works for them. So, in conclusion, Perman's book showed the foundation the gospel gives for being productive. It frees us to be productive. He showed how the gospel defines what is productive, and then he gave some methods in productivity. So the second thing I want to talk about is the main point of my biblical leadership essay. The main point of my essay was a person who is a good steward sets themselves up to be a good leader. And there's two reasons why a good steward sets themselves up to be a good leader. First, they recognize that everything they have is God's. So they recognize that everything that they have, whether it's not a whole lot or it's a lot, is given to them by God. They agree with the truth of Psalm 24:1, which says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. The good steward also sets themselves up to be a good leader because they recognize they have a responsibility to treat God's things properly. So they steward two things well then. They steward themselves well. They steward their skills, their health, work, relationships. And then they steward God's church well. I'm thinking of Paul's letters to Timothy and Titus in this regard. In these letters, Paul is teaching or instructing Timothy and Titus how to be good stewards of the flock underneath them. And so a good steward recognizes their role in regard to the church and fulfills it. And then they also uphold God's word and defend it. And then they love God's people. So a good steward recognizes that nothing they have is theirs. It all belongs to God. and then they also recognize that they have a responsibility to use what they've been given for God's glory. So Matt Perman's book was one thing that stood out to me about our course, and then my main point of my essay is that a good steward sets themselves up to be a good leader. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great end of the semester.